The Monday morning meeting, it's focused in on not talking about everything under the sun. It's an hour meeting with the team, focusing on what happened last week, what do we got to do this week, what defines success for this week, and what do you guys need? So it's solely focused in on the jobs that need to get done and what needs to be addressed from that side. When you define that definition and you literally get on the same page and you understand where they're coming from and they understand where you're coming from, now you can set the rules of engagement for what really is a 911. Defaulting those times that we talked about, it allows for things to be addressed so that the things get addressed proactively. It's Andrew Houston here with another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. When I didn't know who these time vampires were, before I figured that out, they were sucking the time right out of me. So again, guys, I'm Andrew Houston here with another No Bullshit podcast. What we're going to be talking about today is what I call as time vampires. I'm talking about people that just suck, like a vampire sucks the life out of people. These people suck the time right out of us. So there's 4 people that we have to identify and know how to address. And if you don't get this right, if you don't identify these people, here's an example. If you haven't identified them, right? You get to the end of the week and you look back and just go, or even the end of the yesterday or whatever, and you had all these plans and hopes and dreams. And, man, I can get this done and that done. And, I have to get this done. I got to get these quotes out. I got to go out to this job site and look at this or order this material. Next thing you know, when these time vampires come in and you're like, you get all frustrated. Somebody's taking up way too much of your time in some form or fashion. And you're there with a big heart trying to help them. And yet you don't get the shit done that you need to get done. And this cycle happens over and over and over again. So if you don't identify who these people are, and they are very different, they're different. The negative result is the same, which is that they suck time out of you and that you can never get back again. But here's the thing. If you don't identify, first of all, who these people are, you're not going to know how to approach them differently. And what will tend to happen is that either we won't say anything to these people, or we'll get super pissed off and frustrated, and they'll get this sense of like, we don't want to help them. And then this negative culture happens. And again, I'm not just talking about team members or employees. I'm talking about, this applies to suppliers. This applies to, anybody in your space. It could be, professional service people like your accountant or your bookkeeper, whoever that is. So first things first, we've got to identify who these people are. Now, if you've already got control of your time as an owner of a contracting business, and you have no issue with the people that you engage with, as far as no issues around how they respect your time, use your time, then this is not the right podcast for you. And I want you to get the most out of your time. So jump off. If you want to improve and know how to address these people and who they are and what to do about it, then you came to the right place. We're only going to be about another 5 or 10 minutes on this podcast. Keep it nice, short and sweet, and respect your time. So the 4 people are as such. There's the, have you got a minute time vampire? That's number 1. Number 2 is Mr. Meeting or Mrs. Meeting vampire. They just want to do meeting after meeting after meeting, and it just takes up so much of your time. Then there's Mr. or Mrs. Trivia. It's just like, it's sort of like drama all the time. Everything is urgent. Everything is important. Everything is 911. It could be taking out the garbage is like, is urgent. Okay. Then there's number 4, which is emotional crisis, which is they just go on and on and on, constantly telling. They're great storytellers. Okay. It'd be great to tell stories to kids. They take a hell of a lot of time to do that, but they're good storytellers. So those are the 4. Have you got a minute? Mr. or Mrs. Meeting, time vampire, Mr. or Mrs. Trivia, and the emotional crisis one. So let's nail these. And as I'm talking through this, I want you to, as I identify these people and define them, I want you to try and put a face to them. Okay. And you don't necessarily need to put a whole bunch of faces to each one. Just try and pick, if a couple of faces pop up, just try and pick one and focus in on them. All right. Because I want you to leave this no bullshit podcast, again, no bullshit, with tactics that are going to really help you. This is what we do with our champion CEOs, and it has a massive impact. And if you don't address these people and know how to address them, these vampires will keep showing up and we'll never be able to put a stake into them. All right. So here we go. Have you got a minute? Time vampire. These people, when you look at them, they're people who drop in a supplier would be a good example, right? They just come knocking on the door, come walking in. Hey man, how's it going, Jimmy? Yeah, okay, pretty good. You got a minute? You got a minute? Or pick up the phone. You got a minute? It could be your guys, employees. You got a minute? It could be clients. Hey, you got a minute? So think about some of this, the old, have you got a minute vampire, time vampire, and let's talk about how do we address them. One of the key things we want to do is throughout this whole process is we want to be able to be that champion CEO and support people where they need to be supported without getting angry, without being irritated, with the ability to be focused. So with the have you got a minute person, what we want to do, let's say it's a supplier, we want to start defaulting time in our calendar for when we can give these people the time that they need. If we don't have an ability to redirect them, then people are going to run your calendar versus you running your calendar. In this case, the time vampire, the have you got a minute vampire, is going to interrupt you all the time. So what you need to do is you want to set the rules of the game. So whether it's a supplier, hey man, I talked to, hey suppliers, this is when I'm available for you. You can communicate to me through these other means. But as far as meeting with me, or even interrupting me, this is when I'm going to be available for you. And now you are able to allocate time. You're able to, give them the support they need, give them time to engage with you. And the exact same principle applies to whether that's an employee, even if that's a customer. And what happens there is you're changing their habits. You're changing the way that people respond to you based upon the way that you respond to them. So make sure you address these people with allocated slots and time. If it's your crews, then hey man, from 9 to 9:30 is when I'm here for you guys. You can give me a call. I'll be available. I'll be attentive, and we can cover off things. And as well from 2 to 2:30, again, make it work for you and your crews or for your company. But you want to default those times, again, whether it's suppliers or employees, so that you have a place to take them and to teach them, and so that they start to learn. Now, you're going to have to get them to break that habit. There's going to be a few times it's probably going to take to break the habit, but now you have something that you can break it with or stake it with, all right? Number 2, Mr. Meeting. This is something that happens all the time. We spend way too much time in meetings. I know just a couple of months ago, my sales manager was telling me, like, Andrew, there's way too many meetings here that I'm in. I go, what are you talking about? And I wasn't in all the meetings that he was in, but when he showed me all the meetings that he was requested to join, it added up to I think it was 6 to maybe 8 hours a week. This is the sales manager, right? I need him to be managing the sales team and closing and working with potential champion CEO, owners of contracting companies to help them out. I can't have him spending almost a whole day just in meetings. So what we were able to do is we were able to prioritize, and this is something very important. For you as a contractor, one of the key meetings that we teach contractors is the Monday morning meeting. There's 5 money-making meetings. I'm not going to get into that. There's a whole nother podcast I did on that. But the Monday morning meeting, it's focused in on not talking about everything under the sun. It's an hour meeting with the team, focusing in on what happened last week, what do we got to do this week, what defines success for this week, and what do you guys need? So it's solely focused in on the jobs that need to get done and what needs to be addressed from that side. It's not the meeting with the accountant. It's not the meeting with the bookkeeper or the admin person. It's with the team. And it's not on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. It's called the Monday morning meeting. And what that does is it creates a culture of habitualization, but very focused in on an agenda and what's going to get covered. Now, there's a ton of things that can come up throughout the week that are related to those jobs, but we don't need a whole bunch of meetings for them, okay? So get very clear on when and what the meetings are for. And outside that, what means of communication can be used outside of having meetings. We use a software called Slack, S-L-A-C-K, and you can put different groups in there. In your case, you could have the crews, you could have admin, you could have, different, the office and stuff like that, so that the conversations can happen literally in this Slack channel without having to have 10 freaking meetings. And so now the meetings are used specifically for more so on the planning and strategy side of things versus just the day-to-day conversations. So eliminate Mr. or Mrs. meeting, okay, by making sure you put structure to the meetings that you have and you differentiate between like daily conversation, communication, and what's in the agenda and the purpose of the meetings. Again, I use my example, the Monday morning meeting. Next, really quickly, is Mr. Trivia or Mrs. Trivia. They can't differentiate between important and unimportant. Everything's freaking urgent. Everything's 911, right? They're wearing, firefighters uniform 24/7. This is super simple one. You got to get them to learn what priority is. So there's one of two ways you can do that. Maybe combination 3 is you want to understand what they define as what's urgent. Okay. And this could just be a 5-10 minute meeting, just sitting down with them, go like, dude, I'm here to support you, but everything's not 911. What do you define that's urgent? And when they identify things that are urgent, you're getting them to really think, okay, what are things that need to be addressed, but we can address them over a period of 1 or 2 days. When you define that definition and you literally get on the same page and you understand where they're coming from and they understand where you're coming from, now you can set the rules of engagement for what really is a 911, where you have to get back to them right away. Okay. And, going back to the have you got a minute vampire, what we covered off on that, defaulting those times that we talked about, it allows for things to be addressed so that the things get addressed proactively versus things that don't get addressed that all of a sudden go from important to now urgent and important. Okay. So make sure you get on the same page. Okay. Don't overcomplicate it, but understand where they're coming from and identify sort of the rules of the game. Get on that same page. Again, it's going to take some time to break that habit, but now you got something to reference. They can have what those things are listed on their phone. You could do that for, the various different employees that you've got, depending upon the roles that they've got. And now, guess what? Now we don't have, Mr. or Mrs. Trivia time vampire. Last one, emotional crisis. Usually they want to tell stories. They're very good storytellers. They'd be good at teaching kids or reading a storybook to a bunch of kids. Take them forever to tell the story, but they're good storytellers. We want to get them to cut to the chase. So what I tend to do is again, comes back to rules of the game, super simple, is you want to say to the person and you want to say to your team, guys, when you come to me with something, I want to be less focused in on what the story is and more focused in on the solution. So when you come to me, I'm here to listen to you, but if I interrupt you, I'm just trying to maintain focus to help you as best as I can. What that does, guys, is it gives you the ability, okay, to get sort of permission from them to not be looked upon as an ass, because you're not, but to keep them focused on what is the pertinent information that is necessary in that conversation versus the story, right? Like, instead of like, man, I didn't get this material. I had to drive from X to Y to fucking over here. And then it's like, well, we'll stop saying, hey, dude, remember what we talked about? No, I'm trying to be rude, just trying to maintain focus and help you as best as I can. So just stop for a second here. I'm understanding that you didn't get this material. Yeah. Okay. So what can we do about it? That's the next thing. Get them to think about a solution. Well, I guess, what could you have done about it? And you don't need to have the story continued. You can leave it and go get back to me. If you, take a little bit of time to try and figure this out on your own. If you need my help, come back to me. Okay. And guys, more than not, they will come back to you continuing the story. They'll go solve the problem themselves. All right. You want to give people the permission to try and solve things themselves, but you got to set the right environment. Okay. So number one, let them know that you're focused in on helping them. And if you interrupt them, it's for the purpose of focus. In other words, that's your ability to stop the storytelling and get focused in on the facts and what the next steps are. Second thing is get them to start thinking for themselves. Be the leader you're meant to be and get them to start thinking for themselves and say, hey man, listen, I'm here to support you, but look, come to me with either a solution or something that you've tried before you give me a ring, and I'm here to help you. So when they come back to you, they're coming to you with a solution. If they haven't, then you send them off to, hey, think about a proposed solution or think about trying something. Now you're going to create a culture of problem solvers versus like emotional crisis, time vampires. Okay. So those are the 4. Let's get them nipped. Let's put a stake in these vampires. Have you got a minute vampire? The Mr. Meeting Vampire, the Mr. Trivia, or Mr. and Mrs. Trivia, the emotional crisis, and let's just get it nailed once and for all. It's going to help you. It's a great skill set to teach your managers, your salespeople, and others, because they're dealing with these types of people as well. Anyways, that's another No Bullshit podcast for contractors. I will see you guys on the flip. Okay, let's kill those time vampires once for all. And again, if you guys want to get our help, you want to get some more insights, you want to get tactics, tools, strategies, you want to see how we can help you with PFC on the coaching side, book in for a complimentary strategy session so we can get very focused in on your needs. And regardless, we're going to be able to walk away with some strategies, some action items, even if there isn't a fit. And we're here to help you guys and take your business to the next level. And I'll see you guys later. Ciao.
Hey, rock stars. Thank you for watching the No Bullshit podcast for contractors. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. And if you're serious about growing and need help, click on the link below. Myself and my team would love to help and give you the necessary tools so you can take your contracting business to the next level. And remember, dominate, delegate, and deliver.